So there's always going to be haters. And each step of the way, you're going to find, 100 different people at any given time that are going to be absolutely against you and telling you that what you're doing is not good. It's not the right path. It's not the right direction. And sometimes you just have to keep following your soul. You have to follow what's inside and what you think is right and what you know is the right direction to go. And one story comes back to my head pretty easy. I was at this venue. It was just after a competition, and somebody very well respected in the industry kind of stormed over and pulled me aside, and it's that in my mind there was like a wave of people like moving away from me because this person was pretty influential in the industry, and they come storming over to me and start yelling and screaming at me, going, "What right do you have to get involved with these people's relationship, with these kids' lives?" And he's just going off. I mean, like full on yelling at me. And it's one of those moments where you're just sort of taken aback and you're looking at it going, wait a second, and in my own head I remember thinking, I do so much for these kids. I do so many good things for people. And in this moment, this is going through my head, and he's like yelling at me, like raised voice, enough that people needed to walk away and get away from it. But you could probably hear it across the room. And at one point, he looks at me and he says, during this rant that he's on, and he says, "What right do you have to be interfering in these kids' lives? Who do you think you are, talking to them about their relationships and talking to them about all this stuff?" And I didn't answer back. At the time, I was being respectful. And at one point, I finally spoke up after sort of taking this beating. And I said, "May I please speak?" And he looks dead on at me and says, "I'm not going to let you do any of that mumbo jumbo to me." And I looked at him, I kind of tilted my head and went, "I see." And I said, "Well, you should probably find out your facts and before you continue to rail on me. And if you're not going to let me speak, that's fine. But why don't you figure out your facts?" And I challenged him to do it right then in that moment and find the person he was challenging me about. And because I had already talked to that person and there was really nothing that was going wrong. And he backed off and went away. But I just remember that moment just being so torn, because on one side, I knew I did so many good things for people. I know that's what I'm about and that's what I do. And I so wanted to, in that moment, just look at him and say, "You know what? I have every right. I'm trained. I'm certified. I've been through, hell and high water to learn how to help these kids and to learn how to pass on these skills of being able to become better people. And so I have every right to be helping these kids. I have every right to be passing on my information that I've learned and that was meant to be given to these kids to change their lives." And I so wanted to, in that one moment, be able to say, "What right do you have? What training do you have? What makes you think you should be able to get involved with their lives because you've been doing it for years and you have no training at it?" But I can show you my certifications. I can show you the plaques on the wall. I have the necessary skills and means by which to help these kids. And you're railing on me and yelling about it. And oh my gosh, what a humiliating moment. And it was all I could do not to just burst out in tears at that moment. And all I can think about now, looking back, is there will always be haters. There's always going to be somebody that's going to push you back and tell you you can't do what you're doing, whether it's good or whether it's bad or whatever, especially when you're doing well. And so you have to remember to keep pushing through, even when those people that seem like they know what they're doing and that everything's good and they've got it all put together, you got to just keep pushing through. You got to be able to find a way to do what you love and help the people that you know how to help. And just forget about the haters. There's always going to be haters.